Have you ever looked down at your shirt at some cool, colorful pattern and just thought, how on earth did they do that? I mean, not just on one shirt, but on thousands and thousands of them, all looking exactly the same? It kind of feels like magic, right? Well, it's not magic, but it is a pretty fascinating industrial process. All right, let's dive in and pull back the curtain on the journey of a printed fabric. Seriously, go ahead. Look down at what you're wearing. If there's a pattern, a logo, any kind of graphic on it, yep, that's what we're talking about. You're looking at the final chapter of the very story we're about to tell. We're going to trace that design all the way back, from the shirt on your back to the moment it was just an idea in someone's head. So the official name for this whole process is textile printing. Now, the two keywords you got to remember here are thick paste and localized areas. See, this isn't like dyeing, where you just dunk the whole piece of fabric in a vat of color. Oh no, printing is all about precision. It's about putting specific colors in very specific spots to build a pattern. It's kind of like painting, but on a massive industrial scale.
And that right there leads to a super important question. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, adding color to fabric, isn't that just dyeing? And that's a fair question, but the way they work is fundamentally different, and it changes everything.
Okay, let's break it down. When you're printing, you're using a thick paste that basically sits right on the surface of the fabric. Think of it like screen printing a poster. The key ingredient is a thickening agent, which, by the way, means it uses way less water. Now, dyeing, that's a whole different ballgame. You're using a watery liquid dye, and the fabric gets completely submerged, soaking the color all the way through the fibers. It's a full-on bath that uses a ton of water and salt. So if you remember one thing, remember this. Printing is like a stamp, and dyeing is like a soak.
So now that we get what printing is, let's talk about where it all begins. Every single pattern, no matter how simple or complex, needs a plan, a blueprint. This is where a simple creative idea starts its journey to becoming a physical tool that can make thousands of perfect copies.
And it all starts right here. With a buyer's order, some brand or designer sends over the artwork and lays out all the rules. We want this pattern using these 3 specific colors on this kind of cotton fabric. This is basically the instruction manual that kicks the whole factory into gear.
So, you've got the digital design. How do you get it onto the fabric? Well, for each color in that design, you need what's called a screen. And honestly, the absolute best way to think of a screen is as a really, really sophisticated high-tech stencil. So if your design has red, blue, and yellow, you're going to need 3 separate stencils. One for the red bits, one for the blue, and one for the yellow.
And making these stencils is a pretty cool process. First, a super fine mesh is stretched crazy tight over a metal frame. Then it gets coated in a light-sensitive chemical, kind of like old-school photo paper. Then a laser, guided by the digital artwork, zaps the screen, hardening that chemical into the exact shape of the pattern for just one color. Finally, you just wash it. All the unzapped, soft chemical washes away, leaving behind tiny open holes in the mesh. And boom, that's your stencil.
All right, our high-tech stencils, our screens are ready to go. Now we can finally turn our attention to the star of the show, the fabric itself. This is the main event, folks. This is the moment our blank canvas meets the color and the design finally starts to come to life. This flowchart here is our roadmap for that journey. Now, it looks pretty straightforward, right? But trust me, every single one of these boxes represents a huge, critical transformation that the fabric goes through. So let's walk through it step by step. Our journey starts with something the industry calls gray fabric, which is a little funny because it's usually not gray at all. It's just the term for raw, unfinished fabric that's come straight off the loom. It is our blank canvas, but it's not quite ready for paint just yet. Before you can print, that fabric needs some serious prep work. First, it gets singed. Yep, they literally pass it over a flame to burn off all the tiny fuzzy fibers. This makes sure the final print has super sharp, clean lines. Then it's desized and scoured, which is basically a fancy way of saying it gets a deep clean to remove any starches or oils so the color paste can stick properly. And if you're going for really bright, vibrant colors, it gets fully bleached to create the purest white background you can imagine. It's all about creating the perfect canvas. So now, everything comes together. The perfectly prepped fabric is ready on one track. And in the color kitchen, the chemists have mixed up the thick printing pastes to the exact shades needed. The fabric gets fed into a long printing machine. The screens are lowered one by one, and a squeegee pushes the paste through the stencil, laying down one color at a time, perfectly aligned. But hold on, we're not done yet. Just because the color is on the fabric doesn't mean the job is finished. Right after printing, that design is still really delicate. It needs to be made permanent, and the fabric itself needs a few finishing touches before it's ready to become your clothes.
This brings us to the home stretch, the final and totally critical stages of the production line. These are the steps that make sure the pattern you love stays put, wash after wash, and that the fabric actually feels nice against your skin. The most important step here is curing. The printed fabric is sent on a trip through a massive, super hot oven. This intense heat sets off a chemical reaction that permanently bonds the color paste to the actual fibers of the fabric. I mean, it literally fuses them together. If you skip this step, that beautiful design would just wash away in the laundry.
After that design is locked in for good, the fabric might get a final wash or go through a softening treatment. This is just to rinse out any leftover chemicals from the whole process and, more importantly, to give the fabric that final feel that the customer wants, whether that's super soft and cozy or smooth and crisp. And overseeing this whole complex dance are teams of specialists. You've got the finishing section, the people who manage that crucial curing process and the final packaging. You have the quality section, who are like the final inspectors, making sure every single yard of fabric is perfect. And then there's the planning section, the choreographers, who make sure every step happens exactly when it's supposed to, so everything gets delivered on time.
So, the next time you pull on a patterned shirt, remember, it's not just decoration. It's the final page of an incredible story. A story that started as a digital file, became a set of high-tech stencils, and was brought to life through a symphony of chemistry and engineering. Pretty wild, right? So the only question left is, when you look at it now, what will you